We just got three massive pieces of XRP news. One of them we have been waiting for a very long time now. And I believe these things are going to send XRP to a brand new all-time high. In this video, I want to talk about exactly what just happened because this is some of the biggest, most important news we have had in a very, very long time. And guys, one thing just happened with Bitcoin that I think is going to make XRP flipping Bitcoin even more likely than ever. Like always, your support means so much to this channel. Thank you to everyone who takes the time to like these videos and subscribe to the channel. These two simple things really do help me out so much. Also, if you ever need a good place to buy some XRP, make sure to check out my favorite exchange uphold down in the description of this video. But that said, let's jump right into it, and I hope you guys enjoyed the content. So guys, I want to start out this video and talk about something that I believe is actually a huge risk to Bitcoin moving forward. Now, I don't think this is going to be anything that causes the Bitcoin network to go down or anything like that. But I think this could potentially completely change the equation for an asset flipping Bitcoin. For a long time, it was really hard to picture anything flipping Bitcoin because Bitcoin was seen as this decentralized neutral currency that no one owned and controlled. And essentially, it hid behind the fact that no one knew who the founder was. But at the end of the day, what we know is someone did create Bitcoin, and whoever that person is, when discovered, is going to completely change the way people look at the asset. Now, what we do know is people already know who Satoshi is. It's just not been yet leaked to the public. We learned during the Ripple SEC case that the Homeland Defense Program of the United States Department of Homeland Defense actually met with the four Satoshis. And what we've essentially just been waiting on is for that information to come to the public. Now, I want to share with you something very interesting because now I am convinced more than ever that I know who the main Satoshi is. Now, this isn't because I did some super big deep dive and was able to uncover anything myself. What I stumbled across was a fascinating post. This post was done by someone who essentially has done a ton of research into who he thinks Satoshi is, and he thinks Satoshi is actually Jack Dorsey. Now, this post right here, we're not going to go through the entire thing, is absolutely fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. My jaw hit the floor when I read this thing. It's on my X feed. Go take a look at it. It's absolutely phenomenal. But the evidence in here is almost undeniable. Some of the most damning evidence I have seen for Jack Dorsey being Bitcoin, one is the fact that essentially Jack Dorsey was one of the first cypherpunks around. He was proficient in coding throughout his entire career. He knew all the languages necessary in order to code Bitcoin. He was a math major and computer science major. He actually went to a high school where the students were labeled as minors. Funny enough, where that term came from. But even more importantly, there is some evidence in here, such as Satoshi accidentally at one point logging into a public network, his VPN being exposed and showing that Satoshi was in California. Just so happened Jack Dorsey was in California at the exact same time. Something else in here is Jack Dorsey actually left a manifesto in place in 2021 saying that he wanted to cause an innovation to change the world for the better without anyone actually knowing it was him who created the innovation. Another very fascinating thing right there, the simple fact that he said that, I believe, kind of shows that, well, he had something like this planned from a very early day. It gets even crazier, though. In this post, it talks about Jack Dorsey's best friend writing a book about him, in which she said that Jack is living a double life behind a very famous pseudonym. Pretty interesting considering Satoshi hides behind that pseudonym, that fake identity. A whole bunch of other stuff came in here, including a bunch of major transactions happening on Jack's birthday, as well as other people's birthdays in his family, a whole bunch of different addresses containing information about Jack Dorsey's personal life that are also linked to Satoshi's original address. I read through this thing. I have never been more convinced than ever that it is 100% factual that Jack Dorsey is Satoshi Nakamoto. Now, why does that matter? One of the biggest things that Bitcoin is hid behind from a very, very, very early day is the fact that it is different from everything else in crypto because we don't know who the founder is. But if we know the founder is Jack Dorsey, if Jack Dorsey is the person behind Bitcoin, that makes Bitcoin no different than anything else in the entire market. And in fact, from a lot of people's perspective, it might make it even worse because we know a lot of people are not fans of Jack Dorsey. One of those people in particular, President Trump. Trump is not a fan of Jack Dorsey. Jack Dorsey was one of the people who really stifled President Trump in his 2016 term. Now, what's so interesting here is President Trump, as of last night, has actually been posting about Ripple and XRP on his Truth Social account. So we're watching a complete shift in the dynamics here. President Trump is clearly showing support for Ripple and XRP, not Bitcoin. And at that same exact time, what we're finding out is Bitcoin might have actually been created by someone who Trump is not a fan of at all. Now, if this information is already being leaked to the public, something tells me it's very possible Trump already has the information on who Satoshi is. And if Jack Dorsey is involved in that project, I believe it is going to be a huge hurdle for Bitcoin to get over. Bitcoin will no longer be able to hide behind this idea that no one knows who it is. And in fact, a lot of people might actually be public enemies of the original creator of Bitcoin, making it no different than any other cryptocurrency on the market. Now, that's the first big thing I wanted to talk about, because in my opinion, that's what opens the door to something like XRP flipping Bitcoin. The fact that instantaneously Bitcoin is not special in comparison to anything else. And the fact of the matter is actually that Bitcoin's technology suddenly becomes a huge problem. Because if Bitcoin was just created by a person, just like every other cryptocurrency in the market, and it loses that special capability, then at the end of the day, it's just a bad technology that doesn't compete with a digital asset like XRP. And if we start to get an administration, which I believe has already formed, that is looking to embrace American digital assets that are actually solving problems in the world and transforming the financial system for the better, I believe it is extremely possible XRP can actually flip Bitcoin. Now, I want to keep moving and talk about something else that I believe is extremely exciting, and that's the fact that we are now hearing report after report that the Ripple SEC appeal is going to be dropped. Now, I've stated multiple times on this channel, I was preferring if this case was actually settled. It seems like all the reports coming out now are that the case would actually be dropped. I have said multiple times, either way, fantastic news. Fantastic news. Ripple won big in the first case, Ripple versus SEC, before the appeal. XRP was deemed not a security. Essentially, I thought a settlement would be better because it would be able to clear up some of the loose ends that we might not have full clarity on. But even if the case is dropped, whatever. Either way, massive, massive, massive win. There is a lot of internal reports coming out right now from people very close to the SEC, including John Reed Stark, who is a massive cryptocurrency skeptic, essentially saying this case is gone. This case is completely over. This case will absolutely be dropped, and we're probably weeks away from that actually happening. So crazy to see that materializing. It looks like the Ripple SEC case is fully behind us at this point, just waiting for the official announcement. And it really doesn't get more bullish than that. Once that takes place, you are going to see a level of institutional adoption I'm not sure many people are prepared for. And especially if we see that happening alongside Bitcoin kind of being moved out of the public light as something that is no different and in fact inferior to a lot of these other digital assets, that's going to be a game changer for XRP moving forward. Now, something else I wanted to talk about that I believe is one of the biggest pieces of news we have had in the XRP ecosystem in a very long time is we now have a bank using the XRP ledger. We just found out that Brasa Bank, a major Brazilian bank, the largest FX provider in the Brazilian market, is going to be issuing a stablecoin directly on the XRP ledger. So no longer can it be this crazy talk about no banks using XRP, no banks using the XRP ledger. This right here counters every single claim. This bank is using the XRP ledger to increase their efficiencies, increase their profits, and scale their business into the digital future. This right here is just the start. Once one bank starts doing it, the rest are going to be forced to follow. What we are going to see is the banks that embrace this next generation technology are going to get a massive lead on the rest of the financial system. What we are going to see is the banks that adopt innovation are going to make a huge splash in the entire banking ecosystem. Every other bank is going to be forced to follow. And Ripple is the company that has already created this network effect. They already have onboarded close to and over 500 banks to their RippleNet platform. With a flip of the switch, all of these banks can be converted directly onto the XRP ledger. What we are seeing is the very early start to that happening. The banks in other countries are going to be the first ones to take the risk because they want to get ahead of all the American banks. But eventually, the American banks are going to be pigeonholed into a situation where if they don't adopt this technology, they are going to be left behind. This is the early stage of that transformation. And exactly as we have been talking about for the last 2 years, that after the Ripple SEC case just starts to get wrapped up, after we start to get legislation and clarity on some of this stuff, we are going to see the institution stepping in. One of the biggest risk factors we faced as a community was that the technology just wasn't ready. This technology was not ready for prime time, and these big institutions and banks were not actually going to be willing to adopt it, even if the regulations were in place. We are seeing right now that is absolutely not the case. We see ETF after ETF being launched. We are watching new and new partners getting added to Ripple's partner list every single day. We are watching banks all over the world adopting Ripple's technology and using the underlying XRP ledger. The thesis could not be playing out better. And all this is happening while XRP right now is at an absolutely critical point on the price chart. Take a look at this. XRP has held this long-term support for the last couple months, and now we're coming back up to that resistance. It looks like XRP is forming a massive symmetrical triangle, just waiting to break out one side to the other. But guys, with the information we are getting right now, I do not see any way possible this thing is breaking out to the downside. Maybe we get rejected here. Maybe we bounce around just a little bit longer. Maybe we don't get the end of the Ripple SEC case for a couple more weeks. But guys, it looks like to me this thing is absolutely primed and ready to rip. I don't think it can really look much better than this. Not only are the technicals screaming that this thing looks absolutely phenomenal, but the fundamentals have never been better. For the first time ever, we are watching wide-scale adoption of digital assets. And it's not just happening from a couple niche groups. Like I talked about earlier in this video, President Trump has reposted Ripple and XRP twice in a row on Truth Social. I'm not sure what else some people need to see. The transformation is right in front of us. The institutional adoption is taking place. The regulations are being put in place to fully embrace this technology. And this is what Ripple has been leaning into since their business was created. They knew these banks were not going away. They didn't. The banks are bigger and stronger than ever. They knew that regulations were going to be critical. They have been working on the regulations since day one. They have more licenses than anyone else. They have more institutional relationships and government relationships than anyone else. They are working with 27 out of 37 central banks in the entire world. No one else is close to this. While everyone else was building DeFi platforms for meme traders and all these other speculators, Ripple was focusing on what mattered. The big money, the people with all the assets, the people with quadrillions and trillions of dollars. Ripple knew these people were going to step into cryptocurrency. And what we're seeing right now is the tip of the iceberg of that starting to happen. What we are going to watch over the next couple of years is going to completely transform the financial system as we know it. And video after video, what we are seeing is that Ripple continues to be the leader in this transformation. Guys, thank you so much for coming. I hope you enjoyed this update. And for now, Mickle out.